All right, hello everyone. My name is Catherine from SEB Housing, and tonight I'm going to run the lottery for the 59 affordable rental units at Artemas in Everett. And I'll get the lottery underway in just a few minutes. If you have any questions during this session, you're encouraged to go ahead and either type them into the chat function in Zoom, or when you came into the session, you were muted just so we can minimize any outside noise. So you can unmute yourself to ask a question. First, just want to give you some background information on who applied. All of this information will also be emailed to all applicants. So you'll have that in your email tonight as well. Everybody who applied for and was found eligible for this lottery should already have a lottery application number. And that number is in the form of a series of numbers. So in this case, your number is between A.001 and A.0232. If you don't have that, let me know, because that is the number that is going to be called during the lottery, or the number that you're going to find on the waiting list rather than your full name. So there's 59 total affordable units. There was 217 completed applications. So there's going to be 217 households in this lottery. The lottery application numbers go up to 232 because we needed to remove some duplicates. And there were some applicants who withdrew. So that's why the numbers go up to 232, although we only have 217 applicants. So there's 12 studios. One of those is a disabled accessible unit, and there was one applicant who reported requiring the features of that disabled accessible unit. So that person will have priority for the disabled accessible studio. There was a total of 54 people who applied for a studio. There was also 28 one-bedroom apartments. There was 96 applicants for those one bedrooms. One of those one bedrooms is a disabled accessible unit, and there was 3 applicants who said that they need the features of that unit. There's also 19 two-bedroom units, and there was 133 applicants for those apartments. For the 2 bedrooms, there's 1 disabled accessible apartment and there's 1 hearing impairment accessible apartment. 8 applicants indicated that they need a disabled accessible 2-bedroom, and 2 applicants need the hearing accessible unit. So those households will have priority for the units with special features. For the 2-bedroom units, there was 110 households who are type 2 households, which will also have priority on that 2-bedroom waiting list. So back when you completed your application, you indicated what your household type was, and we confirmed that for you in the email that you received with your lottery application number. So it was either type 1 or type 2. So keep in mind that for the 2-bedroom waiting list, type 2 households are going to have priority over type 1 households. And that's just the affordable housing program is designed to so that households don't have priority for units that are larger than they may actually require for their family. There's also local preference for several of the affordable units. So if you answered yes to the local preference question on your lottery application, we also emailed confirmation to you that you applied for local preference. There are several units that have that local preference. So that means that households that currently live in Everett, work full-time in Everett, or have a child going to Everett Public Schools would be able to have priority for some of the units. So there's going to be 2 drawings tonight during the lottery, and I'll be using a website called random.org to complete the drawing. So first, I'll do a local preference drawing. That'll include, I believe it's 48 local preference households. And I'll use what the website calls a list randomizer. It's basically, I'll show it to you in just a moment with the screen share. It reorganizes the numbers into our drawing order. So we use that to try to keep the results as truly random as possible. And after that local preference drawing, I'll do the general drawing. So that'll include the 217 application numbers, and it will be sorted into a random order, and that will be the lottery drawing rather than pulling application numbers out of a box, for example. So The randomization of those lottery numbers, the drawing, is going to be instantaneous. You'll be able to see it as I'm doing it because I'm going to screen share. And just to give you an idea of what that's going to look like, I'm going to screen share and just kind of do a demonstration for you. This will not be the drawing quite yet, but I'm just going to type in a few numbers so you're able to see what it looks like. So I'm going to share my screen right now for those of you who have have joined on your computer. So this is random.org, very basic website. I'm going to scroll down to list randomizer here and click on that. So when it comes time to do the drawing, I'm going to copy and paste all of the lottery application numbers into this box. For right now, just for demonstration purposes, I'm going to type in, 7 numbers. When I click randomize, it's going to have randomized those numbers. So that would be the lottery drawing if I was doing the lottery drawing right now. You would see the lottery application numbers in the form of a dot series of numbers, and it would show, in this case, number 4 was first, and it goes down to number 1 here. So that's what it's going to look like in just a few minutes when I do the drawing. But for now, just wanted to kind of give you a sense of what I'm talking about when I talk about this website. All right, so when I do the drawing, that the results of tonight's lottery, it allows us to properly sort the results onto the waiting list. The waiting lists are going to be what determines the order in which households get to reserve affordable apartments. So it's important to remember that the order of the drawing tonight is not the final order. If you see that you're number 1, you're probably not going to be number 1 after I sort the results onto the waiting list, unless you are a type 2 household who applied for a 2-bedroom unit, because you would have priority. So the waiting list will be sent to you tonight, though, because I'm going to sort them after the drawing tonight. So you won't have too much of a wait. What I'll be doing is sorting the results onto the waiting list by household type, the priorities that I just mentioned, local preference, and then whether or not your household needs a disabled or hearing impairment accessible unit. So you'll get a lottery email from me from info@scbhousing.com tonight, and that will have next steps after the lottery tonight. It'll also have a copy of the waiting list attached to it, and then information, kind of the information that I covered up front on this call, just to let you know the breakdown of applicants that we had for each bedroom size and all of that. And then keep in mind too, if you applied for more than 1 unit size, your lottery application number is going to be on more than one waiting list. So if you applied for a 1-bedroom and a 2-bedroom, for example, you're going to want to look on multiple lists. And everyone, even if you don't have local preference, every lottery application number is going to have a position on the local preference waiting list. It's just that the local preference households are going to have a more favorable position, a higher position on the waiting list. So you'll see your number more than one time. Excuse me. So when you get that email tonight, you're going to notice that the top the top lottery application numbers on every waiting list are highlighted in green. And that's just indicating that those households are going to be immediately invited forward to move on to the next step in the process, which is to complete the lease application with the leasing office over at Artemas. Your contact information will be shared with the leasing office tonight, and you'll also have their contact information that'll be sent to you tonight as well. So you'll be able to connect with them to start that lease screening. So keep in mind that up until this point, you have only submitted your lottery application, which you were self-reporting your income. You hadn't submitted your pay stubs, bank statements, that sort of thing, to verifying information that we'll need. So after you do your lease screening with the leasing office, if you're found to be lease eligible, you'll be referred back to SCB Housing to complete your program eligibility, which is that's the point where you're going to be asked to submit pay stubs and bank statements and things like that. So your takeaway should be, if you're not one of the top applicants on the waiting list after tonight, you're not going to be called forward to move on to the next step in the process unless applicants ahead of you drop off the waiting list. We are going to invite more households than there are units forward, or sorry, I should say the leasing office will be inviting more households than there are units forward, because there are always people who either aren't interested in anymore, or maybe they are denied at some point in the process. So if you are invited forward, just make sure that you are following any deadlines that are given to you by the leasing office or by SCB Housing. All right, so speaking of the information that you'll need to submit into SCB Housing after your lease screening, if you make it to that point in the process, you should have received a documentation requirements guide, which is kind of a cheat sheet for what information you will need to submit. So how many pay stubs, tax returns, that sort of thing. So if you haven't had a look at that yet, just review it, and so you can be ready to submit all the information into us. You'll have about 10 days to supply it, but we work with you. You know, there's a lot of information that needs to come in. So it's not just you have to submit everything on the first try. We'll work with you to make sure that you get a completed application into us. The first affordable units at Artemas are scheduled to be available for occupancy by mid-May. I think the estimate that was given to me a couple of days ago was May 12th would be the first available lease update. And they expect tours to be available by next week. And so just keep that in mind. That's not too much of a delay at all, because like I said, you do still need to go through a couple other screenings with the leasing office and with SCB Housing. So the move-in date is less than a month away if that is what you would like. It doesn't need to be the first of the month. You would be determining your lease date with the leasing office. And then just a reminder, we like to remind everyone who's leasing an affordable apartment that there is a recertification process every year. So a few months before your lease renewal date, the leasing office will ask that you recertify your income with them. So you just want to maintain a record of, or have easy access to pay stubs online or bank statements and things like that, because they may need them. Any questions before I run the drawing? Just wanted to get some of the background information out of the way so everybody understands what they're going to be seeing on the screen here. All right, so I'm going to go back to random.org, share my screen, and I'm going to do the local preference drawing first. Share my screen again now. Back to random.org. And I'm going to do the local preference drawing. So this is 48 house lottery application numbers here. It's going to look like 49, but that's because there's a column header there. So these are 48 application numbers here that I'm going to really just drag and drop into the list randomizer. And this is going to be the local preference drawing for Artemas and Everett. The 48 application numbers here are all households who indicated that they have local preference. I'm going to randomize, and there's 48 numbers here. I'm going to take those and just put them on a spreadsheet here that's a little bit easier for everyone to see. And I will go through, for anyone that's on this call right now, I am going to go through both of the drawings, and then I will, if you would like to see where your application number was drawn, I will go back to find it for you if you're not able to see it. So I'm going to save the results here. So this is a local preference drawing. The person that has number 91 was drawn first in the local preference drawing. So they have top priority for local preference household on the waiting list that they have top priority for. Now I'm going to go over to my general drawing list here. This is the list that has all 217 application numbers. Go back to the list randomizer here. And again, I'm going to highlight all 217 application numbers. And I'm going to put them into the list randomizer here. So this is every lottery application number. Every household who was found to be eligible for this lottery has a lottery application number that was just dropped in here. And this is the drawing this is the general drawing, so everyone for Artemas in Everett. So I click randomize, and again, I'm just going to take the results here and drop them into my spreadsheet here. So it's a little easier to read. I'm going to hide this part. And just give me 1 minute and I'll be able to kind of scroll through so you're able to see the results. And again, this is not the waiting list. This is just the lottery, which is a necessary step for us to be able to generate the waiting list, to populate the waiting list based off of the priorities that are listed here in the information packet. So if you are a local preference type 2 household, you're going to be at the top of the waiting list for these 2-bedroom units. This is how I'm going to sort the results tonight. So this is the order there. Okay, so since there's only 8 of you on the call, if you would like to, I'm going to scroll through. This is the general drawing, but you can just type your application number into the chat box, and I will read aloud where you were, where your number fell during the drawing. All right. Yep, so Joanna, you said you had a question. You can either unmute or ask it in here. In the meantime, I'm going to look up 213. A.0213. You were drawn 39th in the general drawing, and you were not on the local list. 179-0179. You were 35th in the general drawing, not on the local list. 182. You were 211th in the general drawing, not on the local list. 155. 155, you were, 1 second here. $155, you were drawn 20th on the general list. You were not on the local list. 0029. You were 48th on the general drawing. 0217. You were 111th in the general drawing. Not on the local list. Anyone else? Okay, got everyone. So what I'm going to do is take these results and, like I said, sort them onto the waiting list based off of these tiers, basically. So that's what I'll be doing, and then I will email you from info@sebhousing.com. You will get the waiting list, which will give you a better idea of where you stand, you know, where you actually fall on the waiting list is the order of priority for reserving units and initially being referred over to the leasing office to complete their lease screening as the next step in the process. So you'll hear from me tonight. Does anyone have any other questions? And of course, if you get the results and you don't understand something or you forgot to ask something tonight, you can respond to us as well. Yep, Joey, go ahead. You'll just have to unmute yourself if you're trying to ask a question, or you can type it in, like I said.
Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you now.
So I have a question on affordable housing. So if me and my partner right now, we qualify for affordable housing, but she ends up getting a job like later on, like
Mhm.
maybe throughout towards the end of the lease or middle of the lease, what
Yep.
happens?
Yep. So I'm going to scroll just because I'm sharing my screen anyway.
Mm,
Um, if you qualify, say as a two-person household right now, you have to have an income under 140, I'm sorry, $104,200, but your income could go up to right over here, 140% of the area median income next year if you were to renew your lease. So if someone got a second job or got a raise during the year, um, as long as your income was below 140%, which is quite a bit more than what you need to qualify for this lottery, then you would still be eligible and still be able to rent the affordable apartment at the affordable price. If your income exceeds the amount, this 140% right here, at your renewal, so your recertification with the leasing office, then you could still stay there, but you would need to pay market rate.
mm,
But there is this kind of um, period here where your income can increase and you would still be able to pay the affordable amount if you have an income increase.
mm. Do we have to report that right away? Once, if the other person gets a job or
So I believe you just have to report it to the leasing office at your recertification.
right.
They'll give you more details as to what they'll expect as a affordable resident when you move in. But
Okay.
yeah,
All right. Thank you. Appreciate it.
yeah, no problem. And then a question here just came in through the chat. Can we decide when to move in? Yep. So if you go to the lease screening, you submit everything, and the leasing office has qualified you to rent with them, and then you come back to SEB Housing and you also qualify for the program. Um, you would set your move-in date with the leasing office, and they should be relatively flexible with you, I would assume. But if you're looking for a lease date, like 6 months from now or something, that might not be acceptable. But yep, it can be any day of the week too. It doesn't need to be on the 1st or the 15th, but you would set that move-in date at that time with the leasing office. Can I use home base? Yep. So the home base program, if you have some, um, funds for either first month's rent, or security deposit and things like that, that can be used. And if anybody has a Section 8 or an MRBP voucher, you should be able to use that as well, as long as the affordable rent amount that these, which I'll put them up on the screen now too, since I'm here. As long as these rent amounts are approved by your housing agency, you should be able to use your voucher as well. So a question here is a direct message. How many will be invited initially to apply, or next interview? So the next step in the process will be, you'll get the waiting list. You'll see if your lottery application number is highlighted in green. If it is, then you're definitely going to be asked by the leasing office to move on to the next step in the process, which is to complete their lease eligibility screening. So there's 12 studio apartments. 12 numbers are going to be highlighted in green, indicating that there's going to be 12 lottery applicants, which are going to be definitely moving forward. But it's likely that the leasing office um, is going to invite more than 12 households forward off of the studio waiting, because they know that some people are going to drop off. So don't be surprised if you're number 13 or 14 on the studio list and you get called forward. Anyone else? All right. So like I said, the next step in the process is just for me to sort the results of the waiting list. Sort the results of the lottery onto these waiting lists, and you will get that email from me probably later on tonight, at the very latest tomorrow morning. But then you'll have a much better idea as to where if you can expect to be invited forward by the leasing office for the next steps. Thanks everyone for your attendance, and we'll be in touch soon. Good night.